Previously on the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast.
And for October, we'll be reading The Eye of the Giant by Christopher Bulis.
Okay, interesting.
First published in 1996, and I hear it's kind of a pastiche or homage to the King Kong films, so...
Okay.
Kind of an exciting
Cool.
adventure romp for us for
Yeah.
October.
We did go through a while in the early days of this version of the show of us accidentally going for stuff that turned out to be relevant to the news.
Well, unless there's a island of gigantic monsters to be discovered sometime in the next month, I think
It's 2020. Anything seems to be possible.
anything's possible.
And now our story continues.
Welcome, everyone, to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. This is Matt in Minnesota.
Chris in South London. How you doing, Matt?
Doing okay. Surviving the dark times, as it were. Happy October, Chris. How are things going with you?
Yeah, all right. We have no heating.
No.
Our boiler died, so hopefully, dear listener, by the time you hear this, our boiler will have arrived and been installed.
So does that mean no hot water or
Correct.
anything?
No hot water.
No.
Yeah, unfortunately, the shower and the dishwasher do their own thing when it comes to hot water. But yeah, fortunately, we do have lots of hand gel because, you know, 'tis the season.
Well, hopefully you can get that
Rectified soon. Yes. Yeah, what fun.
Well, we do have some interesting distractions to keep us preoccupied.
Doctor Who, or do you mean
Oh, yeah,
world
Doctor
in
Who.
general?
Doctor Who. We have a new Daleks animated series that was announced since last we recorded. 5 episodes are headed to YouTube and are somehow tying into Time Lord Victorious, so that should be fairly exciting.
Yeah.
They're free, so you can't complain about that price.
Yes, I like your qualification there. Fairly exciting.
I would say the graphics on it look a little bit PlayStation 2 era.
Yeah, the cast list is interesting because amongst the cast list there is one Joe Suggs, who is a name that might not mean much outside of the UK, but he's a YouTube star who was on Strictly Come Dancing, aka Dancing with the Stars, a couple of years ago, which is how come he's crossed my radar. He's not known for his acting, so who knows? I mean, he might be brilliant. So yeah, it certainly caused an eyebrow to raise, but I guess that would help with publicity because he seems to be down with the kids. So.
And this is part of the Time Lord Victorious banner, so some of the other new additions that have been coming out recently, one of the novels was released, and there are some short stories that are newsletter exclusive and or action figure exclusive, so it seems like they keep announcing more and more parts to this every month.
Well, and also there's a t-shirt.
I didn't know there was a...
Because James Goss apparently was in something about saying, what are the various different mediums that we could be telling this story on? And someone said, well, we could do a T-shirt. And so they have found a way in which a T-shirt can tie into the plot.
Wow.
Yep.
That's creative. Outside of Time Lord Victorious, there was a new Doctor Who book range that's been announced called Team TARDIS Diaries, and it's due out in the spring of 2021. And it's written as an illustrated diary with entries from Ryan, Graham, and Yaz. Volume 1 is called Paper Moon, and it's by Louis Stowell. And Volume 2 is Ghost Town by Susie Day, and both are illustrated by Robin Boyden, and it's supposed to be like at least a 4-volume series, and Volumes 3 and 4 haven't been announced yet, but the 4-part series is aimed at younger readers, so each book is around 144 pages, kind of similar in length to, a Target book. And Paper Moon finds the Doctor and friends in danger in a psychic forest, while Ghost Town leads them to a dusty mining town at Halloween.
Very interesting.
So
I wonder whether, in the context of the book, the illustrations are supposed to be done by the companions.
Oh, that'd be funny if they each had a different style, but I think it's all kind of uniform.
Yeah, Graham doesn't strike me as an artist.
Game show host, maybe. But.
Yes, I think so.
We also have a new anthology coming out by Dave Rudden. So right when this podcast is going to be released, The Wintertime Paradox will be out, and it's a collection of stories about Doctor Who Christmases past, present, and future. And apparently there's also going to be a mystery piece of Time Lord Victorious storyline released alongside the book on its publication day.
Of course there is.
So, yeah, but we did enjoy the last one quite a bit, so
yes.
I definitely look forward to picking up the book when it comes out.
Yeah. Have you read any, I mean, we just possibly might be entering into your show and tell, but have you read any of the Time Lord Victorious materials as yet?
So far, just the short story that was the newsletter exclusive. That was about is it the Kolath? I forget how they pronounce it, kind of the background about that alien species.
Yeah, okay.
How about yourself?
I've read the first one of the Titan comics, which was alright. It was good. Yeah, so certainly captured David Tennant's Doctor well. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I'm not going to be getting any of the novels, but that's not due to disinterest in the project per se, but it's just reading 2 Doctor Who novels in a month might be a bit of a push.
I've done it a couple of times. It's not recommended.
No.
I did pick up the 2021 annual, which has a large Time Lord Victorious section near the back, including some tie-ins with River Song that I wasn't aware of before. So that's been some interesting reading. So what do you have for Show and Tell this month?
Right, what do I have? I've got Penny Dreadfuls, which we've been watching over lockdown. And it's a TV series set in Victorian times, featuring, amongst others, Billie Piper. And Billie Piper is, I think, a brilliant actress, and we are so lucky to have had her play Rose. And I think she's fabulous in Penny Dreadfuls, because her character goes through a bit of a journey, I think it's fair to say. Have you seen Penny Dreadfuls?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay.
I have seen her act in other stuff, like Secret Diary of a Call Girl, and then the Sally Lockhart mysteries that she did with Matt Smith.
Yeah, but yeah, I would definitely recommend Penny Dreadfuls to folks, particularly if they like the Madame Vastra type things. And
I've seen clips of it, and it seems very Paternoster Gang.
Yeah. And also, as well, if you like the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, you may find it slightly familiar.
How many seasons does it have?
So 3 seasons. There's also been a spin-off in Los Angeles that I have not seen. I've been advised this is not essential viewing, but I have not seen it myself. It's not for all the family. It's fair to say. And also as well, I saw Josh Hartnett in a new light, because I've never particularly thought, I've not thought that he was a bad actor, but I've just not thought much of him. And also as well, it's left me wondering, as and when Jodie departs the TARDIS, I'd quite like to see Eva Green as the Doctor. I think she'd make an excellent Doctor.
Yeah, she would. She's probably more well known for like films and stuff, but if she's doing TV now, then there's not so much like a film TV divide as there was in past decades. There seems to be a lot more crossover now with that and online stuff. And Josh Hartnett is a Minnesota native. I had friends who have said oh, Josh Hartnett came into my hardware store today. Just random sightings. I don't know if he still lives in Minneapolis, but for a number of years he did.
Oh, cool. Right. What do you have for Chantal?
So this past Friday, I took the day off work and I decided to do a deep dive with Fury from the Deep, the recent animated DVD and Blu-ray, which has not come out in the US, so I had to import it from the UK, but glad I did. And I'm watching these a little bit out of order because I haven't actually sat down and watched the Faceless Ones one yet. That's coming to BBC America over 2 nights. But yeah, it was wonderful. I spent the whole day going through all of the different versions, all of the extras, the commentaries, the info text. I really enjoyed it quite a bit. The animation on these just continues to improve. And this one featured on the commentaries Toby Haydock, Gary Russell, Fraser Hines, quite a few other folks, including, forget her name, a woman who was the makeup assistant on the show and worked with 5 different doctors over the years, 1 through 5.
Oh, wow.
She said Patrick Troughton was her favorite of the 5.
Yeah.
But there's also a wonderful documentary, I think it was directed by Chris Chapman, which was shot out on location at Margate in Kent, Botany Bay, where they charter a boat and they go out to the Red Sands forts in the Thames estuary. And it's just really great production value on that documentary. It's about 40 minutes long in total. Features lots of sweeping drone shots of the beach. And it was just really cool, and really enjoyed it. So
cool. Oh, I'd forgotten that was filmed in Margate, because we didn't get to go to we didn't get to go on a beach holiday this summer. Because of one thing and another. And I've always wanted to take Lauren off down to Margate, because not due to a particular love of seaside towns, but we do like to be beside the seaside. Though Margate has, amongst other things, this amazing shell grotto, which was discovered by Boy Scouts in Victorian times, allegedly, and apparently been there for centuries. And you can wander around, and it is open in a socially distanced manner, which I think will be a bit difficult to do because it's not the widest of corridors. And you can just see all of these subterranean passageways completely decorated in shells.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and people say, it might have been put down here by a cult for which this is the only evidence. Yeah, or it could have been put together by Boy Scouts.
I'm surprised they didn't film in it, because it would have been kind of a cool addition to the story, maybe.
It's very tight to film in there. Right. I think, yes. Yeah. You couldn't get a 60s camera in there. Or at least not easily. Maybe as and when the the next season starts filming.
One of the things I did last time I was in London, which a decade plus ago, but was take photos of different Doctor Who locations and then stand in the same, like I went and climbed one of the lions and stood in the same spot as Jacqueline Hill, and maybe you can do that with Margate someday.
Yeah.
Just bring a inflatable dinghy and row ashore.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I've got Patrick Troughton's hat, I think. Or something that could pass us. Yes.
Cool.
Right.
So this month, we're reading a third Doctor book. It's a missing adventure, The Eye of the Giant, by Christopher Bulis. And do we want to talk a little bit about Christopher Bulis, the author?
Yeah. Boy, he was prolific, I think it's fair to say. He's not done anything for the modern era of the programme. However, he did A New Adventure, Shadow Mine, did several missing adventures, One Eighth Doctor, and a few past Doctors. I mean, I think, he tended to try to avoid repeating Doctors. So he must have ended up repeating them, given the number of books he wrote.
I guess he was also an artist, or is an artist, and he painted his own cover for Shadowmind, his new adventure.
Aha! Okay. Yeah.
And we've read one story by him so far, Hot Ice in More Short Trips, which was a Fifth Doctor and Perry adventure about a thief that steals a jewel that melts and kills him. So we similarly have a jewel that is not a jewel in this story.
Yeah, we do.
A little bit more about the book. So this particular missing adventure was release number 21 in the range, so about 2/3 of the way through the missing adventures. And it takes place between Inferno and Terror of the Autons. That's one thing I appreciated about the MAs. They tell you exactly which 2 stories the adventure takes place between. And it was published in April of 96. So this was hot off the presses and on the shelves just before the TV movie aired. And likely was one of the first Doctor Who novels, that I bought when I first got into fandom that summer. And that means it was also published right before John Pertwee passed away. And the cover illustration is by Paul Campbell. It features Carol and John as Liz Shaw in front of a giant macra-looking crab. And then Mike Yates and the Third Doctor get portraits on there too. And the book contains a prologue, 26 untitled chapters, and an invitation at the end for Benny and Jason Kane's wedding in the year 2010. Sadly, I missed attending that. And in terms of setting, the book is set in 2 time zones. So you've got the unit era, which it takes the position is set in the early to mid-1970s, as opposed to the 80s. And it's also set in 1934 on the island of Saluta, or Saluta, maybe,
Yeah.
which is in Polynesia.
Allegedly.
Yeah. May or may not be there. I didn't realize that geographically the Polynesian islands are a triangle in the Pacific Ocean, with New Zealand at the lower left point, Easter Island, which we visited in Eye of Heaven, as the most eastern point, and then Hawaii as the northernmost point.
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
According to separate from like French Polynesia.
Oh,
But yeah.
yeah. It looks like a bit of a stretch of a triangle, I have to say, but I don't know. Looking at it, it's a triangle with chunks out of it.
Yeah.
Well, certainly, I've not heard my resident Southern Hemisphere expert refer to the Polynesian triangle, but then again, as she doesn't hail from a land that is in said triangle, it's not something that would come up.
Australia does get a mention in this.
It does, yes. Canberra in particular gets a lot of mentions, but New Zealand doesn't, which I found a bit bizarre. But anyway, doesn't as much at least. Anyway, we'll get into that when we get into the plot of the book.
Yeah, shall we
get underway?
do you want to
Shall we
go ahead and start?
Yeah, I'll start. So we start in the year 1934, and according to legend, the Polynesian island of Salutua, is that how we say it? I know
Salutua?
Salutua,
Like
yeah.
Salutua?
Yeah, the Polynesian island of Salutua disappeared after a fire god rose up from the volcano and drove away the natives. The eccentric Professor Sternberg believes that he's located this legendary island, and this was after he'd been caring for a man who'd been found floating in the Pacific Ocean with giant animal bites on his body. And so an American millionaire called Marshall Grover, who's a film producer, funds an expedition to Salutua based on Sternberg's findings, apparently intending to use the island as a backdrop for a realistic monster movie. So the expedition's ship, the Constitution, passes through what appears to be a freak atmospheric distortion that shrouds Salutua from the outside world. But as soon as it enters the lagoon, it's disabled by an underwater explosion. So it's a bit of a dramatic sequence. So the crew do manage to successfully beach the ship, and whilst they're trying to conduct repairs, Grover's team head off into the jungle, and they discover that the flora and fauna on the island are impossibly gigantic, as shown on the cover. So we've got kind of like giant crabs, we've got giant bats, giant ants.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's all a bit scientifically impossible. And so in amongst all of these people that are on the Constitution is Grover's second wife, who's a former starlet, and her name is Nancy Norton. And she's terrified by the unnatural growth. And she's attacked by a giant snake, and so flatly refuses to film anything on the island. Which seems like a sensible thing to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. From early doors, we're being suggested that we might not really like Nancy. But I think I'm slightly with her at this.
Yeah.
So Grover, though, refuses to take her away just yet, because he's got another reason for coming to Salutua. And it's because his daughter, Amelia, who is also on the boat, lost her arm in the car crash that killed Grover's first wife. And so obviously he thinks there might be some kind of healing powers and everything. Yeah, Grover is an eccentric American millionaire.
Head of a studio executive.
Yeah.
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 I wonder if our one-armed disabled character, Amelia, will be treated better than the disabled individual in the last book, Marianne in the Blood Cell. So we will find out, dear listener,
Yes.
if that's the case. There was also a little bit of a prologue at the beginning of the book where we're introduced to some sort of alien creature who's stolen something of value, possibly eggs or some other item from an alien race known as the Semquests, which more about them later.
Yes.
And this island itself it's fairly large. It's about 3 miles by 5 miles, and it has a variety of terrain. So some peaks, craters, forests, beaches, the volcano.
Yeah.
And it's surrounded by this distortion field or this perception filter, almost like Paradise Island or Themyscira from Wonder Woman.
I mean, for me as well, it kind of echoes forward to Lost. Because if this book had come out now, you'd be just thinking, Lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did learn a new word here, verdure, which means lush and green vegetation. So it's one thing I've noticed about Christopher Bulis' writing style is he tends to throw in a few words that I had to look up here and there.
Yes.
Maybe they're more widely used in the UK. You know, as they're exploring this island, King Kong does get a reference. So kind of the Skull Island from King Kong, because that came out the year prior, and actress Fay Wray is referenced.
Yeah.
The other thing, too, is we're on this yacht, the Constitution, that gets beached. We're introduced to quite a cast of characters. I think I noted there were 14 characters in all.
Yeah.
A director, a cameraman, the professor, a secretary, the captain of the ship, the first officer, the engineer. There is also a bit of casual racism thrown in with some of the characters. Like, for example, Amelia's a teetotaler carrying over the temperance ideals into the post-Prohibition era, which had just ended the year before. She refers to the cook who's Chinese as having an oriental fit at one point, which has got my hackles up a little bit. But
yeah,
it is also period specific, but unfortunately it's kind of layered in throughout, and some of those conversations.
Yeah, I think we'll go into this further, but I think that there are a few bits of the 1930s plot line that, looking back at it with 2020 eyes, you kind of go, okay? Also, kind of go, maybe this is a version of events masking a true one.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Some misogyny thrown in there too.
Yeah, just a dash, yeah.
So leaving those troubled times,
yes,
we instead head to idyllic 1970s London.
No problems at all. Society was fine.
Where the Doctor and Liz are working on the TARDIS Council outside of the police box, kind of where we had left it in Inferno. If you like the Unit family, they're all here. So in addition to Mike Yates, who's still a sergeant at the time, we've got Benton, we've got Corporal Bell makes an appearance, as well as Tom Osgood, who later appears in The Demons and is possibly related to Petronella Osgood that we all know and love from New Who.
Yeah.
And Sergeant Mike Yates arrives in the laboratory with a package from Unit's Australian Bureau. And I think this is where our dramatic reading comes in for the month.
Yeah.
Read by a very special guest, artist and Big Finish author Sophie Isles.
Yeah.
Sophie's had her first Big Finish short trip released earlier this month. Earlier in the month for you, dear listener, but still a week or so in our future. So we haven't heard it yet. I'm sure it's fantastic. And it features a tale about the Master, performed by John Colshaw, and it's called Master Thief. And it also happens to be a tie-in to Time Lord Victorious. I saw on her Twitter feed she's also just done a fantastic illustration of Brian the Ood from Time Lord Victorious. So
yeah.
With that, let's have a listen to Sophie's reading.
Their backs to the door, the Doctor and Miss Shaw both had their heads buried in the half-dismantled innards of a peculiar freestanding hexagonal control unit that was topped by a glittering, complex mechanism encased in a glass cylinder, the function of which Mike Yates could not even begin to guess at. Slightly muffled, there came the sounds of incomprehensible scientific dialogue. Perhaps it's the time phase oscillator. No, that's imbalanced now. The photon accelerator coils? Hardly likey. What about the tachyon beam collimator? Well, what about it? Elizabeth Shaw withdrew from the device and straightened up angrily, tossing back her mane of long blonde hair. I'm only trying to help, Doctor. The Doctor quickly straightened in turn, his tone abruptly softening. My dear Liz, please excuse me. I truly am most grateful for your assistance, but... He ran his hands irritably through his shock of white hair and scratched the back of his head, a scowl of puzzlement on his craggy, distinguished features. It's just that it really should work properly now. I got so close during the Inferno project. Doctor, you nearly got stranded in that parallel dimension the console took you to, remember? Ah, yes, but I know what went wrong. At least, I think I do. The Brigadier, piqued at being ignored for so long, cut in. If you don't mind, Doctor, Miss Shaw, perhaps you could tear yourself away from tinkering with that machine for a moment. We have an official piece of work for you. The two scientists turned round in mild surprise at the interruption. Oh, hello there, Brigadier. What can we do for you? The Doctor beamed back at him amiably. Sergeant Yates has just received this item from Australia. Mike put down the container on a bench and handed over the sheaf of technical notes to the Doctor, who flipped through them with remarkable speed. Liz, noting the radiation stickers, went to fetch a Geiger counter and ran it over the package. As you can see, continued the Brigadier, it was found in the Pacific somewhere northeast of New Zealand, inside a shark's stomach of all places. Apparently, the creatures do eat odd things at times. This particular snack, however, seems to have been a little too much and killed it. Fortunately, its carcass was picked up by a scientific survey vessel who recognised they had found something odd. Because of the radioactivity, the military were alerted. Liz carefully broke the seals on the container, then she donned a pair of heavy gloves and unlatched the lid. At first they thought it might be a fragment from an old atomic test or a lost nuclear submarine, but chemical analysis revealed it was some sort of synthetic alloy, combining the properties of both ceramics and metals. It doesn't match anything known. Liz reached into the container with a pair of long-handled tongs and carefully withdrew the artefact. Mike and the Brigadier automatically took a pace backwards. "It's all right," Liz reassured them. "The radiation is low level. I'm only being careful just in case." She deposited the object on a stand in a heavy lead glass isolation cabinet and closed the lid. The mysterious artefact was a twisted silvery white lozenge, about a foot long. The remains of the machine edges could still be seen along one side. Cut into one of its flatter planes was a string of odd-looking characters. "Ah yes, that's what I want you to look at especially," the Brigadier explained. "If those marks are writing, then it's in no language known to Earth." He looked at the Doctor hopefully. "You can read it, I suppose?" The Doctor smiled, tossed aside his notes, and peered intently at the artefact. "My dear Lethbridge Stewart, there are several million languages in this galaxy alone, a few of which even I've never come across. But it does look vaguely familiar." He rubbed his chin. "If I can get the TARDIS reference banks working properly, I might be able to translate it for you." "It is alien, then?" "Oh yes, judging from the material analysis alone, there's no doubt about that." Mike had been listening to this remarkable exchange with mounting interest and amazement. From the familiar way the Doctor talked, it was almost as though he himself was... He glanced again at the police box in the corner. Benton had told Mike about the Doctor and his TARDIS, but despite his experiences over the last year, he had hardly believed him. "Well, do your best, Doctor," the Brigadier said. "I want to know where the item came from, and when it got here, if possible. There's no knowing how long it was in the ocean before the shark found it, or how far it carried it before it died. If there is some wretched alien craft or device somewhere we should know about, does it pose any danger or contamination? Liaise with Yates about anything you find, and he'll keep me informed of your progress." But the scientists were not listening. They had already become immersed in their new investigation. "What do you make of these readings, Doctor?" Liz Shaw asked, showing him the gauges of the detector built in the isolation cabinet. "Omicron radiation. Of course, I might have guessed. Set up the full analyzer, Liz, while I fetch something from the TARDIS. I know what we can use to track it down. Should have thought about it before. Probably needs an overhaul, but it should work." His words trailed away as he hurried over to the police box, opened its narrow door and slipped inside. Meanwhile, Liz wheeled over a trolley of complex electrical equipment and began arranging it beside the cabinet. The Brigadier motioned to Mike, and they walked quietly out of the laboratory, as unremarked as when they had entered. In the corridor, his lips twitched in a half-smile. "And that is your first lesson, Yates. Terrible at taking orders, these scientific types, but engage their curiosity and there's no stopping them. Let's hope," he added dryly, "they find the problem more digestible than the shark did."
Thank you, Sophie, for reading that.
Yeah, thank you, Sophie. So, you can see a lot of her fabulous artwork. Find Sophie on Twitter. Sophie Isles is her handle on there. And go along to her website. And she's also now frequently appearing in the pages of DWM.
You can also hear her back on episode 23 of our podcast, where she joins us for a review of the 8th Doctor novel, Trading Futures.
Yes, you can.
And do go pick up her master's story out this month from Big Finish.
Yes.
So, as we heard, the Brigadier's gotten the Doctor and Liz very much intrigued and engaged about this alien artifact that they found. And the Doctor decides to wheel out the space-time visualizer from the chase, which throughout this book, it's referred to as the space-time visualizer, but I noted that in the chase itself, it's called the time-space visualizer, so the two words are flipped there. They use this prop from the chase as a time window, similar to, I guess, like the Star Trek episode City on the Edge of Forever, or the MST3K episode The Time Travelers, where they create a portal and you're able to view things, but you can also, if it solidifies enough, step through the gateway, which is a convenient way to get around the fact that The Doctor can't use the TARDIS at all in this story.
Well, isn't it around about this point where the Doctor expresses his frustration about being stuck in the same time? And he says to Liz, imagine if you were stuck in the same country and you couldn't leave it. I go, yeah, imagine.
Oh. So they activate the space-time visualizer and they tune it to the frequency of the Omicron radiation trace, which is present on the artifact fragment. And that creates a holographic image of the fragment's path through history. So they kind of get to watch it be eaten by the shark and are in the shark's stomach for a while. And they keep, reversing and going backwards till they get to the moment of the fragment's creation. Yates leaves to report to the Brigadier, but then Liz realizes that this image is interactive and it's a time bridge so they can pass through solid material. The Doctor passes through the bridge to explore the island on the other side, but then the visualizer's power accumulators begin to overload. And while trying to warn him, Liz accidentally falls through the time bridge and is stranded on the other side with him when the accumulators short out. So with Mike Yates, because this is the kind of the first introduction where the excerpt we heard from Sophie, where he meets the Doctor and Liz for the first time, and it's implied that, so there's a line in Terror of the Autons where, when Mike is introduced, they talk about how, he was around, during the recent season 7. It's just that we never got to see him because he's always been on cleanup duty. So he's been trailing the Doctor and Unit by a week or two through all their Series 7 episodes. So we get some kind of references to that, which is fun. And I like the implication that Liz and the Doctor have, many adventures together after Inferno, but before, Liz leaves and Joe shows up. So I always like that when they can, take a character like Liz, who's only appeared 4 times in the series, and give her more of a grounding and additional adventures.
Yeah.
I was also kind of worried that she would be stuck on the other side of the portal, playing tech support to the Doctor the whole story. And I was happy when she got stranded with him, just because they have the Doctor and Liz dynamic, and we're not deprived of that throughout the whole book.
Yeah, because it would be a perverse decision, wouldn't it? given there is so little Liz Shaw fiction. Mm-hmm. We have seen interesting decisions made in Doctor Who books in the past. Right, so in 1934, Grover's cameraman, a guy called De Vere, is trying to get one up on Nancy. And so he suggests using Amelia as a stand-in for long-shot location footage. And Nancy has become paranoid about any kind of perceived threat to her livelihood because she's come from nothing. Yeah, and so that night she confronts Amelia privately on the ship's deck because she's convinced that Amelia is trying to steal the picture from her. And whilst Amelia is trying to explain that this isn't the case, the ship is attacked by giant crabs, as you do. When Nancy tries to escape, she accidentally knocks Amelia overboard. But we're also kind of like, maybe not that much of an accident. But yeah, surrounded by the crabs, Amelia is forced to retreat into the woods. And Grover and a team of sailors set off to rescue her, while Nancy remains on the boat. And in the forest, Amelia manages to escape from the crabs, but then falls into a giant pit masked by vegetation. And she's unable to climb out.
So the portal that the Doctor and Liz step through, that's farther up on the crater of the volcano.
Yeah.
So they're up above the vegetation line. And all the action with the crabs and stuff is kind of happening down in the bay where the yacht is breached. So you have 2 different areas of the island being explored at the same time. So the Doctor and Liz are wandering around, taking it all in. And they discover that there's an alien spaceship embedded in the ground in the mouth of the volcano, and there's a device that seems to be powered by geothermal energy from the volcano that's generating the force field that is giving the island that invisibility or that perception filter. And then the Doctor speculates that the device has caused the volcano to cool down over time and lapse into dormancy, which means that the ship must have been here for quite some time.
I don't follow this logic.
Yeah. It's a bit of a stretch, but
yeah, because volcanoes become dormant of their own accord. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, and he doesn't really have a record of the volcano to know when it was active and not. So
yeah.
We'll chalk that one up to Time Lord intuition.
Yeah.
So then the Doctor and Liz hear gunfire down kind of in the beach and jungle below. and they head down to investigate, and they find that the rescue team from the Constitution, which is the name of the yacht, has been caught in the middle of a battle between giant crabs and giant bats. And some of the crewmen are being picked off until the Doctor's able to arrive with his sonic screwdriver, which he's able to set at a frequency that interferes with the bat's echolocation and also drives off the crabs. And the Doctor claims to be from a British expedition on the island, and although he's kind of wary of a rival expedition, Grover was grateful for the Doctor's help in driving off the giant creatures. And they're going to have to table the search for Amelia, Grover's daughter, until the morning, and then the Doctor and Liz accompany the group back to the yacht. And on the way back, they spot strange marks in the jungle floor below, which appear to be tank tracks.
So, back in unit times, Sergeant Osgood manages to repair the time bridge. And the Brigadier does give him a little bit of abuse during this, doesn't he? Yeah. But, the Brigadier is not very patient with technology, I think it's fair to say.
He also mellows over time, too, so I feel like he's a little bit more gruff, I guess, maybe, or kind of brusque in these appearances, which align more, I think, to how he was portrayed earlier, because I feel like his character mellowed a bit over time.
Yeah. Also, round about this bit, speaking of his character, there's a lovely little bit I'll read out that I think does speak quite well to the Brigadier's character. He was a firm believer in the principle that if something looked neat and clean, it worked better. That was true of both machines and men in his experience. It does sound like the Brig, doesn't it?
Yeah, it rings true.
Yeah,
to his character.
So the time bridge has been repaired. However, it needs to be run at a reduced rate of power to prevent the accumulators from burning out again. Yates volunteers to go through the bridge and search for the Doctor and Liz. He goes across and he finds Amelia in that pit on the island. And he rescues her from a giant spider, because every giant creature must be encountered in this narrative. This is a book that is not afraid of cliche, I think it's fair to say, without tipping my hand too much. There's also, again, doing another reading. So when they're having a conversation, Nancy says, "Do you often manage to induce girls to embrace you so soon after you've been introduced, Sergeant Yates?" And, "It's a technique I've been working on," Mike responded in kind. Oh, okay. He seems to be overplaying the ladies' man. But, so since Amelia is unable to climb out of the pit, she and Mike must search for another way out. Whilst doing this, they stumble across a giant statue, which is presumably the god of the islanders. And it's a giant humanoid carved from remarkably pliant stone with a single ruby red eye. And the pit turns out to be an extinct lava tube, which comes to the surface elsewhere in the jungle, conveniently.
We have lava tubes again, which we also had in Eye of Heaven.
Yeah.
Crisscrossing the island, so it's like a underground way of getting around.
Yeah. I'm not sure if lava tubes are a thing. I guess it must be.
Oh, they are.
Oh, they are? Okay.
Yeah, I watched a documentary from David Attenborough about the Galapagos Islands.
Okay.
They actually go down in them, and they're really weird and strange, because almost looks like it's like a machine-carved tunnel, twists and turns and stuff, but the walls are remarkably smooth.
Okay. I wondered, therefore, because Eye of Heaven was being written because it was originally going to be a Virgin New Adventure, if that David Attenborough thing came out in the mid-90s. Because it's interesting timing. So Mike and Amelia trying to get back to the yacht, but they're attacked by the miniature tank that we'd seen the tracks of before, and this tank is taking samples of the island's flora and fauna and trying to fight it off. Mike accidentally destroys it when his grenade ruptures what seems to be a high pressure water tank. So he and Amelia are then reunited with the rest of the expedition, and also with the Doctor and Liz. But as they share stories, a shower of paper leaflets float across the island, having been flung through the time bridge by a desperate Lethbridge steward. As back in unit time, they've been on the phone to Canberra, to the Australian branch of unit, and they've discovered that the island is going to be completely destroyed by a volcanic eruption this very night.
In 1934.
Yes, yeah. But it's convenient, isn't it, for plot purposes?
Yeah, so you have a ticking clock in the background because you've got this explosion. And we should mention, too, that the time portal can be adjusted and moved on the Brigadier's end from Sergeant Osgood, so it doesn't have to remain in a static location. So he kind of positions it higher up over the island, so when he starts throwing out the leaflets warning about the impending disaster, they all float down, all over
Yeah.
So Grover, the studio exec and kind of the leader of this expedition, sees one of these leaflets. The Doctor is forced to admit the truth that him and Liz are time travelers from the future. But Grover refuses to abandon his expedition because this is such a preposterous claim. So in order to prove his story, the Doctor suggests that Mike show Grover the statue in the pit, which the Doctor believes is in fact a dead alien in a life support suit. So think and it's about 30 feet high. So the imagery that came to mind for me was the jockey alien from the movie Alien,
Yes.
where you have the statuesque sort of creature.
Yep. I very much got that impression.
So when they get to this lava pit, or the remains of this pit, the Doctor studies the statue for himself and finds a storage unit containing 2 SemQuest drug vials and 1 empty space. And he concludes that these ampules, one of them must have broken open sometime in the past, releasing chemicals into the island's ecosystem, which resulted in the gigantic creatures all over the island. And the Doctor intends to destroy the other 2 vials, but before he can do so, Grover has his men hold the Doctor, Liz, and Mike at gunpoint and seizes Mike's weapons and grabs the vials and reveals that he came to the island in the hope that the cause of this unnatural growth could be researched and somehow help grow Amelia's missing arm back.
So why does Grover assume this? Because I know that they know that the island, that they think that there's giant crabs on the island. But those could just be natural giant crabs.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, this part doesn't make sense as to how how he would come to that conclusion.
No, he's possibly, he might not be the sanest of people, but yeah, just don't get it. Anyway.
And they're all there, under the cover story of they're going to film establishing shots for a movie and stuff. But yeah, his true motivation just doesn't really make sense. So when Nancy discovers this, and she's been kind of, feeling guilty ever since Amelia fell in the water and she couldn't save her, she realizes that this entire expedition was for her stepdaughter's benefit and not her own. So in a fit of rage, she lashes out at Amelia's self-righteousness, going so far as to call her a cripple in the story, which infuriates her husband Grover and just destroys her credibility in his eyes and the eyes of everyone else. And you can tell, Grover's going to divorce you and leave you with nothing now.
So here's again another little thing about Grover. So Amelia is being framed in the narrative as being a potential antagonist.
Or Nancy, you mean?
Oh, yeah, I meant Nancy. Sorry, yeah, Nancy, Grover's wife. Now, if we look at this through 2020 eyes, the spectre of Harvey Weinstein comes to mind. Grover isn't portrayed as being highly innocent, but I do kind of feel we are not being told the whole story of Grover here. Mm-hmm. And I think I would probably feel more sympathy for Nancy. And I feel that there's a backstory there that's not being told. Grover gets all upset and mortified and everything, and I just think, yeah, you're a studio head in the 30s.
Yeah, he's not entirely innocent at all, yeah.
Yeah, but the book doesn't really touch upon that. It doesn't even hint at that. But I'm just like, yeah, I'm sure you're a pretty vile person. So I just find it just, whenever Grover appeared, I'm like, yeah, there must be a lot more to this than we're being told.
Yeah, and with Nancy, too, I feel like the author's leaning quite heavily on the old evil stepmother trope, too.
Yeah, and I think that she's found a way to try to survive in Hollywood. In a very fragile... And the book does kind of suggest to that, but in a way that possibly not to get you to be sympathetic to her. But, yeah...
I guess in the book's defense, it does at least pass the Bechdel test in that we have a single conversation between Amelia and Nancy on the stern of the boat at one time about the motion picture industry. So,
yeah.
Small...
Yes, yeah. So the Brigadier finds that he's unable to pilot the time bridge beyond the caldera of the volcano because the time bridge has become tuned into the radiation signature from the spacecraft. So Benton then prepares to lead a team through the bridge.
A team of squatties.
Yes, to find and rescue our unit regulars. I was trying to find an interesting way of saying Dr. Liz and Yates. Because TARDIS crew isn't really the case. You can't say the TARDIS crew for this lot.
That's true.
But, yes. So anyway, he's going to go and try and find a Dr. Liz and Yates. So a non-TARDIS crew. So as the team of Scotties prepare to set off, reports start to come in from unit's American officers of strange spectral UFO sightings on the American West Coast. There's also sightings of these ghost buildings that haven't existed for years. And then reports are coming in from across America and then through Hong Kong and Japan. And as Benton and his team go through the time bridge, a commercial jet crashes in Munich because the pilot says that the runway's changed position. Then you suddenly start hearing sightings from the UK of like ghost-like squadrons of marching figures and like condemned buildings suddenly reappearing, and the opposite exists as well, because people who are supposed to be alive suddenly become a lot harder to perceive. So an interesting storyline starts emerging away from the B-movie stuff.
Yeah, you got two different things kind of going on at once.
Yeah, and I'm saying, I was reading this like, this sounds like a David Tennant season finale, but for me, it was actually more interesting than all the cliche stuff on the island.
And it was funny. I was, I think, more interested in the stuff that was going on in the island than the modern day stuff, so that's funny.
Yeah.
So back in 1934, Grover has the Doctor, Liz, and Mike, the non-TARDIS crew, locked up on the Constitution, promising to release them before the volcano erupts so they can return to their own time. He just doesn't want them interfering in the meanwhile. The Doctor, however, refuses to help Professor Sternberg open the vials because they're kind of locked in this, I'd say child-proof, but really human-proof sort of way, claiming that the human race is not prepared to handle the alien technology within. And then Amelia, who, you know, as we touched on, is quite religious, she believes that the loss of her arm is a test from God, and accepts the Doctor's argument about, you know, what's going on, and refuses to take any of the drugs, even if Sternberg somehow manages to open the vials. Meanwhile, Nancy, knowing that, you know, her marriage to Grover is effectively over, seduces David Ferraro, who's the first mate of the ship, and convinces him to try and steal the Giant's ruby eye back on the island, you know, in the pit, while everyone else is still repairing the damage to the yacht. And when the first officer fails to return, Nancy decides to go looking for him and finds that he's been hypnotized by the ruby eye in the statue's forehead and is building a fire in the pit. Before Nancy can do anything, the heat then restores the Giant to life, and then it turns its gaze on her and is able to hypnotize her with the eye in its forehead as well. And then the smoke from the fire, which was warming up this giant creature, who we know now is named Brock, which is the creature from the prologue. The fire that was built attracts Grover's men and as well as Benton's search party. So the two groups kind of arrive from different directions around the same time. And the Giant holds Nancy hostage, kind of in a King Kong style, and uses her as its telepathic go-between so he can communicate with Benton and Grover's party. And he demands the return of the lost ampules. And he had stolen these from the Semquests, which are these kind of squid or octopus-like creatures that only exist in really high-pressure water environments. So the tanks that we saw earlier are its life support units, and they had been taking samples from the island to determine whether or not their drugs were responsible for the growth there, and they were tracking Brock as he was a thief, really, that stole these from their species. And we get this kind of cool flashback where you get Brock's crashing on this planet and all these references to how cold it is. Kind of reminded me, you know, if a human were to crash land on, say, Saturn's moon Titan, where you have lots of recognizable features and stuff, but just completely cold, and so all of this coldness is draining his suit of its energy, and you know, he eventually gets trapped down in this pit, and we get this cool sequence where every day the sun is able to warm him up just enough for him to regain consciousness, and he has this weird thought process where he's being revived and he sees the sun briefly, and he sees this 20,000 times, which means he's been trapped dormant for around 50 years or so before the Semquests track him down.
Yeah, and in that sequence where we're seeing his time on the island, there's also as well quite a cool, like the first living creature he sees is a bird, and he's thrilled by the fact that the dense atmosphere made a winged flight powered only by muscular effort possible, with the implication being that there aren't any winged creatures on his home planet. The sequences from his point of view, particularly those flashback sequences, are really good. You have this real sense of, you know, the alien explorer, or an explorer on an alien world, rather.
Yeah, and he refers to like, oh, I'm going to stop by this fountain to get refreshed, and it's a fountain of lava, but you don't get that detail. You have to kind of infer that's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
At first, I kept wondering, too, with Brock, if he was only a giant because he was exposed to the growth ampule, but that's not the case. His species is actually about 30 feet high.
Yeah, so realising that the Doctor was right all along, Grover orders a reluctant Sternberg to surrender the vials. But just as they're handed over, the Semquist tanks arrive. Brock is still holding Nancy hostage, so the unit troops are forced to fight off the Semquist whilst Brock escapes. But then the Semquist mothership emerges from the lagoon, and Brock realises that he's never going to be able to escape. So, following him at a social distance, the unit troops see him place Nancy down and continue on to the ship alone. But yeah, we haven't really spoken about it, but I mean, it just so evokes King Kong or robots. Yeah. I think the success of the 1930s storyline does depend upon how much you care for King Kong type thing. Yeah, and I think you enjoy those more than I do, I think, potentially. Certainly, I've not been I haven't been particularly exposed to them, and whenever I've seen it, I've always just found it a little bit cliched. But,
it's one of those weird things where it's like, you realize it's cliched, but it's also like the origination of that same cliche, so it's...
Yeah.
It's that kind of weird, seems derivative, but it really, at least, King Kong wasn't at the time.
Oh, yeah,
it was groundbreaking and stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, so Nancy's been put down, and Brock is continuing on...
Or set down, right?
She
wasn't killed off.
Yes. No, she's not been killed off. No. Yeah, so Brock's carrying on his way, and the Doctor, realising what's about to happen, sends Grover's group back to the ship and tells the unit team to assemble on the beach. And Benton's got one of his men over by the time bridge, and so the Doctor has Yates' radio instructions to him to pass on to the brig. And Brock's ship takes off, but the Semquest shoot it down, and its fragments are scattered across the island, thus covering the island in radiation, and allowing the Brigadier to pilot the time bridge to the beach, which is convenient. So as the unit team escape, and the repaired Constitution heads back out to sea, the nuclear core of Brock's ship plunges into the heart of the volcano, triggering the eruption that destroys the island and scatters the fragments of Brock's ship throughout the surrounding area. And then one of these fragments is found and eaten by a shark. Yeah, and so you kind of thought, is that where the book ends? But no, dear listener, no, we're about halfway through.
Yes, there's a whole other plot that begins to happen now. So.
Yes. How exciting.
So back in present-day England, or 1970s England, or Unit-era England...
Yeah, Unit-era England, yeah.
Depending on the dating protocols. The Doctor begins to power down the time bridge, but suddenly the power in Unit HQ goes out, and Sergeant Yates sees that the lights of London have changed outside the window. Realizing what has happened, the Doctor stops before shutting down the time bridge completely and leaves it running, and mentions that the island must have existed at a nexus point in time and space, and by passing through the bridge and interfering in the past, the Doctor and his friends have changed history. And while the time bridge was operating at full capacity, the two timelines were able to coexist side by side, which caused all the spectral sightings and UFO sightings and all of that, which began on the opposite side of the world and have slowly progressed, around the circumference of the globe, approaching the central point of the time bridge in London.
So a little bit like the TV movie.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's something like midnight. It's midnight all around the world at the same time.
Yes. A little bit like that, yeah.
Yes.
So since Unit HQ's electrical generators no longer exist, the time bridge only has a limited amount of power left. And when that runs out, the time bubble that's preserving this corner of Unit HQ is going to be wiped out of existence. And the Doctor and his companions have to find out how history has been changed in the past, so they have to return to the Constitution and fix things before their timeline ceases to exist. So with this twist, I do have to say I did see it coming relatively early on when they started talking about UFOs and stuff. I was like, oh, it's almost like this alternate reality is trying to come into existence. So I guessed that fairly early on. I don't know if you picked up on that as well, that they were related in some respect.
I think I was kind of hoping that we would be going somewhere with the ghost things, because as I say, I found that more interesting. And the suggestion that there may be, maybe not necessarily a twist, but that, that there might be something more to this did kind of like keep me going through the 30s stuff. So yeah, did I guess a twist? No. But also I wasn't completely surprised, but I was also a little bit thrilled to to have just moved to a different setting. So Unit HQ is being attacked by soldiers in strange uniforms who capture Liz and take her through this interface into the rival timeline. And the Doctor knows that she'll only survive for a short time in this other timeline because she's currently imbued with Artron energy due to her trip through the time bridge. Of course she is. But as the Artron energy decays, she will slowly cease to exist. So it's amazing how it's the fifth Doctor who first starts talking about Artron energy, but then like in the Missing Adventures, it does seem like
pops up quite a bit.
It does. So the Doctor, Brigadier and Benton set off after her, using the fragment of Brock's ship from the time bridge as a portable Artron energy reserve. Conveniently.
And the vehicle they set off in
is Bessie. Yes, super powered.
Yes, with its newly installed superdrive.
Yes, yeah.
I just actually watched The Time Monster for the first time. A couple weeks ago, so I got to see that in action, which was really cool.
Right. What's your opinion of The Time Monster?
It was better than its reputation. There were a couple of misconceptions I had about it, so I thought most of it was set on Atlantis, and it's really only about 2 of the 6 episodes are set there. And I also thought it was set on like an underwater Atlantis, and I didn't realize it was, pre-explosion Greek society Atlantis. And then all the stuff with like the time bubble and the laboratory and, the master, all of that was really surprising to me, and I had no idea that was coming and stuff. So I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. So
yeah,
I'm down to one Pertwee left now that I haven't seen.
Oh, that's the Mutants, isn't it?
Nope, I've seen the Mutants as well.
Oh, okay.
It's Invasion of the Dinosaurs.
Yeah, all right, yeah. I mean, it's not a classic, but it's it has its moments. There's a very good cliffhanger. But there's a couple of good cliffhangers, but there's one that's really good. Anyway, yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed The Time Monster. I'm of a similar opinion that it's a lot better than its rep, or a lot more fun than its reputation. Yeah, I'm not going to be like Liz from Verity, sort of claiming that it's a forgotten classic or something. But it's certainly one of these ones like with a glass of wine or something. It's a very enjoyable and passable way to spend some time.
I did note some similarities between, because I watched it around the same time as I was reading this too. So yeah, some of the similarities between the 2 stories did strike me as I was experiencing them.
Yeah, cool. So we have to go back to the book. So in the storyline, so Yates and Osgood, they're remaining on guard back at Unit HQ as the soldiers are starting to bomb the headquarters. And their bombs fade away on Unit's side of the timeline interface divide, but are slowly becoming more real and more dangerous.
And so when Liz is kidnapped by the soldiers, she's taken through a version of London which resembles the futuristic visions of old silent films like Metropolis. And she's taken to what used to be St. Paul's Cathedral, where she's questioned by nuns dressed in scarlet, who open a satellite link to this world's goddess, who just happens to be Nancy Grover.
Surprise!
Nancy reveals that Brock, knowing that he could not escape the squid-like Semquests, struck a deal with her and gave her the Semquest vials as well as fragments of his ruby brain eye. And the figure that boarded the ship and took off that we saw back in 1934 was just the husk acting autonomously, being remote controlled by Brock's essence, which is now sharing space, within Nancy. So they're kind of, both personalities are kind of competing in the same body. And Nancy has used one of the vials to merge herself with a fragment of Brock's brain eye. So her forehead opens up, similar to Dalek operatives, and you've got this ruby eye visible in it. And Nancy also murdered the professor because he was reluctant to turn over the vials. As the yacht was making its way from the exploding island, she also took over the minds of her maid Tilly, as well as the first officer Ferraro. And so they have ruby fragments in their foreheads as well. And she only has a limited number of these fragments, so she can't convert everyone this way, but she can also hypnotize people if they're close enough to her. she's also able to kind of spread her influence and get people converted over to her cult of personality through the films that she continues to release with the studio. And the Semquests try to invade again in 1941, and she's able to unite the people of Earth behind her to fend off their invasion. And so as she's become ruler of this world, she's also been working to construct a new body for Brock to transfer his consciousness into that. Liz realizes, as she's explaining all of this, that while this world is united, it's united by fear, and that if Nancy loses her powers, so if she divests from Brock's influence, the utopia she created, or dystopia, is going to fail. So, she's taking her time to build his body, let's say that. Yeah. She's not in any hurry to lose her powers.
Well, I did like the care of how the alternate timeline's been thought through, and the fact that the Second World War didn't happen, and that Nancy's quite appalled by what happened in our timeline. So I think the book for me was kind of earning points through that. So, infuriated by Liz's rejection, Nancy attempts to bring Liz under mental control, but fails when Liz starts to fade from existence. Fortunately, the Doctor arrives just in time and manages to kind of get her back into the time bubble surrounding Bessie, and so Liz returns to normal. And they drive back to Unit HQ just as Nancy's soldiers are redoubling their efforts. And as they manage to destroy the time bridge, Brigadier Benton Yates and the Doctor get through it to the Constitution, where they can sort of face Nancy back in the 1930s. And Nancy and her slaves are in the process of taking over the ship. When they attempt to kill the intruders, the Doctor, realising that Nancy can't be reasoned with, uses his sonic screwdriver to find a resonance point of the ruby crystals. He's also managed. He's put a mirror on the sonic screwdriver as well, hasn't he? Mm-hmm. Which is something that we see. Is it a time monster? Do we see the mirror?
Or is it a Peloton story? Maybe.
Oh, maybe. But yeah. Anyway, it is something we see again in the Pertwee era. So So these ruby crystals shatter due to the sonic screwdriver's resonance stuff, and it kills Tilly the maid and David Ferraro, the kind of the first mate. And that's such a soap opera-y name, isn't it, David Ferraro?
Yeah. All the names in this are very kind of fall into that.
Yeah. So Nancy dies, but she falls atop the kind of the remaining ampule, and the contents spill over her body. The remaining ruby fragments, and also the structure of the Constitution itself. So, back at Unit HQ, Liz and Osgood find themselves looking out over a devastated wasteland as the Constitution begins to warp into a monstrous living being.
So the implication there is that it's created a third alternate timeline, so not Nancy's utopia,
yes,
but this devastation wrecked by whatever this creature is that's being created in the past.
Yeah. So things are getting even worse. So the contents of this ampule have merged Nancy, Brock's eye, and the organic components of the ship, so the wood and all that, into a voracious living entity, part animal, part vegetable, part mineral. And the transition has driven the new entity insane. Of course it has. And it will consume all life on Earth. So, so it's almost like it's a end-of-game baddie, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like the final boss battle.
Yeah, it is.
I was very proud of myself and noted a continuity mistake.
Oh, right.
Near the end of the book. So it's on page 286, and it's one of the first times I've spotted one. There's supposed to be a reference to Sergeant Osgood, and instead it was written as Corporal Osgood. Ooh. And the only corporal in the book is Bell.
Yes.
So speaking of rank, I kind of thought, or I guess I expected Mike Yates to be promoted to captain by the end of this book, but that doesn't happen either.
Oh, well.
So to kind of wrap up this book, so the Doctor's unable to fight this new life form. It's getting out of control, and it's, they're out in the middle of the ocean at this point. And so what Liz and Osgood try to do is to cut the creature to pieces using the time bridge. So kind of in a portal sort of way, split the creature in half because they can, direct and move the time bridge, which has been kind of off in the distance, trailing or following the yacht as it's been, progressing back to America. And they had figured out that they could use the portal in this way when the Brigadier threw leaflets through it before. Some of the leaflets didn't make it and were kind of cut in half. So they knew that this was a feature of this portal. So the trouble with that, though, is that the chunks of the interface that they've brought back to the present, they're able to reconstitute on the other side of the portal and start attacking Liz and Osgood. So those two are forced to abandon the time bridge and kind of flee beyond the interface, but they start to fade away again once they exit the time bubble. And as the Constitution prepares to absorb its passengers and kind of add it to this amalgamation that it's creating, the Doctor realizes that his only remaining weapon is the third remaining ampule, and this is the most dangerous and valuable of all. So this serum allows any life form that consumes it to reach its full potential, whatever that means. So he's unwilling to risk the consequences of drinking it himself, fearing what he might become, like Time Lord Victorious, perhaps. Mm. And before anyone can stop her, Amelia grabs it from him and drinks it herself. The shock of the chemical transformation kills Amelia, but her arm starts to regrow, and it's attributed to, her faith and her belief system, and the powers of the transformation enable her to survive death, and it turns her into an angelic being with all of the powers that implies, so like an angel straight out of the Bible. And this new Amelia subdues the hybrid life form and promises to care for it until she can find a way to separate Nancy and Brock's entities once again. And realizing that she no longer belongs on Earth, she kind of scoops up this amalgamated entity and flies off on her wings out into space, bidding farewell to her tearful father, and she sets off to explore the universe and try to understand her new purpose in it. And then the Doctor and unit return to London once the time bridge is operational again, and they find, apart from a few newspaper headlines that talked about the fate of Grover's expedition, history for the most part is returned to normal.
And there ends the story.
And that's the book.
Yeah.
What'd you think of it?
Well, so basically, the Doctor's on exile. He's on exile on Earth because of kind of like interfering with the way that Time Lords look at it. And here, he's caused all of this mayhem by going back to have a look at what happened in the 30s. Mm-hmm. And so by interfering. And so therefore proving the Time Lords right to exile him.
And creating the problem, yeah.
Yeah, which isn't explicitly called out, is it?
No, it's not.
No. Yeah, I would say I'm glad that we had the alternative timeline stuff pop up. Even though it's not desperately original, and obviously there are a few people going to go, ooh, do you remember Inferno? But at least it gave the book something sort of different. Yeah, this is not my favourite of the books we've read. I think it's fair to say. And the characters on the Constitution. Oh, God, I just don't care for any of them, really, particularly.
Yeah, they are very cliched.
Yeah, and I was finding it hard to remember who all of them were, apart from the Grover family. Mm-hmm. And also, as we foreshadowed earlier, this is yet another book in which the character who is perceived to be disabled ends up sacrificing themselves. So,
yeah,
2 books in a row.
Yeah. That was surprising to see that picked up again. That exact same happen again.
Yeah.
And at least here she lived and she was transformed and stuff. But yeah.
Well, she kind of lives. She dies.
Yeah.
But yeah. She becomes Batwolf. Yeah.
One of the things I do like about Bulis's writing style is he skips over some of the boring bits. So, like, examples would be like, you don't have to experience the conversation of the Doctor being convinced to help Grover. The narrative just jumps ahead till after they've had that conversation, so we can move on to the next bit, which helps the pacing, especially, I think, in the latter half of the book. The same thing happens when Yates and Benton meet up on the island. Benton gets briefed about everything Mike's been up to, but we don't have to sit through that to play catch up. So I did appreciate that. And what did you think about how well the book captured the era?
Yeah, it did feel like, if I think of things like Day of the Daleks and stuff, I mean, it did feel Unity, and certainly it did feel like it captured the general tone of the characters. Though I did wish Liz had had a bit more to do. But I mean, there wasn't anything that felt wildly out of the character for her. And I've always found it slightly enjoyed Mike Yates. I've always found it a little bit difficult to pin down exactly what his character is, apart from slightly posher than Sergeant Benton. So, yeah.
I guess for me, I thought it captured the era relatively well. I guess I would disagree with... I thought Liz had lots to do in this, just because she was operating the time portal and she come through.
Yeah, okay.
And I almost think that she had too much to do, in that there wasn't a whole lot for the Doctor to do in this.
Yeah.
Apart from him using the sonic screwdriver a couple of times, he doesn't really, apart from setting up the whole problem in the story and being responsible for the deaths of all the people on that commercial airline.
Yes, yeah.
Indirectly. Because, a lot of the people that die still remain dead, even though the timelines kind of merge back together at the end.
Yeah.
I did like Bulis's writing style. It feels a little verbose. There's lots of asides where details are dropped, and it's up to you to kind of remember those details and previous revelations. He doesn't do a whole lot of reminding, of things that have been mentioned before. For me, at least, when I was reading through the book, it seemed to plod along and move a little bit slower, but I feel like that methodical kind of writing style was a good match for and evokes the season 7 era.
Yeah.
These long shots describing people performing science and engineering experiments.
Yeah.
The prose is a good fit in that sense.
Yeah.
But it's still kind of clunky and slow.
But how Lizzie does Liz feel? I don't know. I think that's maybe the point. It felt like Science Woman rather than necessarily Liz. Because Liz can be a bit sarcastic in the TV, and I just didn't. I think that's what I was trying to say. I was hoping for more Liz Shaw moments.
Yeah, I think my favorite version of Liz that we've encountered in the different books we've read is probably from Who Killed Kennedy.
Yes.
I really like, even though she's not in that much.
She's so memorable when she is.
Yeah.
She just grabs your attention. Yeah.
I did appreciate that for the most part. Apart from the Brigadier, all the other people in unit called her Dr. Shaw. And it was only the Brigadier calling her Miss Shaw, so at least they were using her title, which was good.
Yeah.
And it would have been nice to, I guess, get some inclination or some suggestions or hints that Liz was thinking of leaving, or, that a position was posting, that she... Because eventually Joe Grant's going to come in, but I guess that also leaves the door open for several more Third Doctor and Liz adventures, too, if she's not... like, hey, I'm on my way out the door, sort of thing.
Well, but also she could just be looking at an ad in the paper and say, Cambridge is looking for scientists in whatever field it is that Liz is an expert in.
Speaking of newspaper ads, I did wonder whether there'd be any sort of long way round communication between 1934 and the unit era, like one-way messages published in newspapers and the like, but that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And I guess it probably couldn't with, the alternate timeline and stuff, but...
Yeah. There are some nice bits of humour in it, because Benton starts saying that he had an aunt who read tea leaves and reckoned herself a bit of a medium. And the Brigadier sort of says, well, maybe she can help us until the Doctor and Miss Shaw return. And then Benton sort of points out that she died 5 years ago. And then Brigadier says, well, in present circumstances, I don't think that's going to be a handicap. And I thought, that's the thing. There are some nice flashes of wit and everything in there, and... yeah.
They're kind of spaced out, though. They're few and, compared to, James Goss last month, there wasn't,
Yeah.
I guess if listeners want more Liz Shaw, I would recommend Carolyn John did do some Big Finish work in the form of companion chronicles before she passed away in 2012, so I've listened to some of those and would recommend, the Bluetooth. That's a good one. But she acted in a number of those, so plus, of course, the Probe series and all that.
Yeah. And also, as well, I mean... Who Killed Kennedy is, I think, still free, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you've not heard our episode on Who Killed Kennedy, and if you've never read it, then do have a look for it in your search engine of choice, and you'll find a legal, free copy of it, which, if you have an interest in the unit era, I think it would be very much worth your time. So, yeah.
So,
what mark am I going to give us?
Or should I...
You go first. You go first.
Okay.
You go first.
So I guess to score this one, reading it felt like comfort food to me. And I think I enjoyed it more than you did. So I'm going to give it a satisfying 7 out of 10.
Okay, cool.
Which is probably higher than you're going to...
It is higher, yes. I think I'm going to give it... I'll give it a 5.
Okay.
And I think that is because it's lifted higher by the alternative timeline. Like I love, all the descriptions of the metropolis London, and I could have done with more of that. So it just feels like a little bit of a wasted opportunity. But we've read worse books.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and yeah, some of the things you're bringing up do, in retrospect, maybe it's a low 7. But one thing I did like is how layered the plot was. You have the UFO threat in the present, the giant-sized animals, the intrigue of the movie expedition, the mystery of the statue on the island, the pressurized fish tanks, the ticking time bomb in the background of the Brigadier's warning about the volcano, and the time bridge and stuff. So you have a lot of things going on at once.
Yeah.
And they are all interconnected.
Yeah. It does do, the Stones of Blood trick, whereby, you've got half the story in one place and then it switches and is a bit of a different story. But I think the Stones of Blood is a bit more successful in that.
We did like it more. I looked at a couple reviews online, and the Hooniverse Discontinuity Guide, for example, they called it an interminably tedious collection of B-movie cliches with an incredibly dull cast of characters and a bloated, overlong plot. Dreadful. So
yeah,
I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly did pick up on. I was also, annoyed by the B-movie cliches. So I could definitely see where they're coming from, describing it as overlong. However, I'd be like, entertainment! We're now in this alternative version. Yay! Robert Smith in the Cloister Library had slightly kinder things to say, but he also sort of says that the book could easily have lost 100 pages and should certainly have lost 50. Yeah.
One thing I did like, and I think it's a strength of this book, is Benton and Yates and Osgood and Bell and Liz Shaw all in the same story. It did give the portion set in Unit era London, a real family feel in that Unit family sense. And I really liked that, the Master hasn't been introduced yet, so it feels like a pure Unit story without, the threat or suspense of when the Master's going to show up hanging overhead. So
yeah,
I did like that aspect of it quite a bit.
Yeah, and also as well, the Third Doctor wasn't as obnoxious as he can be. So
yeah,
because
that's true. The sexism and stuff comes from other characters more so than the Third Doctor this time around.
Yeah, because I'm in a slightly unusual situation where I enjoy the Unit parts of the Unit era, but there are some times when the Third Doctor rocks up and I just go, could we tone it down? Yeah, or maybe not just go banging on about how you were hanging out with Chairman Mao and other, interesting name drops. Yeah. Your
mention of Mao reminds me too, the characterization of the Chinese cook and the Chinese stewards on the ship just felt very dated and of the time, and kind of like how Short Round is portrayed in Temple of Doom. Yeah. It's worth a read, I guess, if you're a fan of that era, and I liked it more than Chris, but so your mileage may vary.
Yes, yeah.
So that's The Eye of the Giant. Anything else you'd mention about that before we...
No, apart from the fact that I was powering through this book because I wanted to get back to reading The Stand. And bear in mind, this is 2020. I think that tells you all you need to know.
Yeah.
Because I'm back to reading The Stand, folks, for light relief.
Well, that's The Eye of the Giant. And hey, the title ties into the MacGuffin of the piece.
It does. It's not one of these titles that's just a bit mystifying. Like, no, we know exactly what this is all about. So, yes.
Shall we move on to listener feedback?
Yeah, let's.
So we have an email this month. We heard from the Irredeemable Shag from the Fire and Water Podcast Network. And he drops us a rather lovely email where he says, "Hi, Matt and Chris. I hope you're both doing well. With no commute to speak of in recent months, my podcast listening really fell behind. However, I'm thrilled to say I've made a special effort in recent weeks to catch up on our podcast. He wishes he has some meaningful or insightful feedback to provide on recent books covered, but he's just writing to say that the recent batch of episodes has been wonderful as usual, and in particular, he says of Human Nature, it's as exceptional as indicated on the show. He was on a break from buying Who books when it was originally published, and was unable to locate a copy for many, many years. And he said in desperation, he checked it out from his local library just so he could read it. And he said it's rare to find Doctor Who novels in U.S. libraries during the wilderness years. He even contemplated keeping the book from the library and not returning it. But a little voice in his head said, "What would the Doctor do?" So thankfully that prevented him from committing larceny. Of course, it was made available as an ebook, too,
Yes.
for much of the early 2000s.
And it's an ebook now. You can get it from Kindle
That's true,
and various
yeah.
other things. So it's
Widely available.
Yes, now a lot more available. So you do not need to be tempted by heading down a criminal path.
Yeah. And then he also writes, Short Trips and Sidesteps was a super fun listen. Whether some stories are winners or losers, he adores our coverage in the format with the TARDIS timer. And he says, such a fun way to cover anthologies. And he's thrilled whenever we announce an upcoming anthology episode, whether he's read the book or not.
We've not got an anthology coming up. I'm not about.
They are a lot of fun, but they're also, I guess, always good to space those out, I feel, too, because they're challenging to edit and they're challenging to, sometimes challenging to read through, depending on the author of the story. But
some of them are a lot better than others, aren't they?
he also says, wants to say thank you for the glorious listening, and he hopes that we continue to stay healthy and safe. And happy reading from the irredeemable Shag of the Fire and Water Podcast Network.
Cool.
He later added on Twitter, too, that he also really enjoyed the Blood Cell episode, and that he hopes that we're still considering reviewing Harvest of Time someday. He said despite its length, it was a quick read, and he enjoyed it when it came out. So, noted.
Yep.
And you can email us at andwbcpodcast@gmail.com with your comments about The Eye of the Giant or any of the other books we've been reading.
Yes.
So, Chris, how's Facebook looking?
Yeah, so it's the usual flurry of likes. Though Facebook did remind me, because I did a post about the, I think it was the September issue of DWM, which has multiple articles about the new adventures and interviews with authors from the time. And you can either get that from your local comic shop type retailer, who I'm sure will very much appreciate your business. Also, as well, you can download it, certainly in the UK, from Pocket Mags. And I think DWM is still, I've not heard any more stuff about it being in a parlous state, but I think they are very much appreciating people's business because certainly the advertising industry in the UK has taken a bit of a hit.
They've been running some sales recently, too, where I think they've had a 50% off subscription sale for their digital subscriptions, and then they're still running another sale at the time of recording where subscriptions are 30% off. So do support them if you can and if you have the money, because it's a good institution that's been around for several decades.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kept the show going, so I think it's good that fans can, if they're able to, that they can keep DWM going.
And if you spring for the physical version, like they've been doing like things where they've had TARDIS dioramas included, and like the recent issue of Time Lord Victorious where they bring the comic strip back, they released a special one-off comic book featuring the comic strip with the Eccleston Doctor.
Yeah, and I think a lot of DWM's advertisers are people advertising conventions, and I don't think there's many conventions happening in the future, at least certainly not in a physical way. Do please have a look into that. Anyway, sorry, that was a long-winded way of saying not a lot of stuff on Facebook, but likes. Twitter, though.
On the Twitter side, hello to all of our new followers on there. And we've got Keith Say writing in to say he loved the Blood Cell podcast, and he hadn't realized how prophetic the novel was. We also heard from Andy Smith, who thanks us for getting the episodes out by the 15th of each month like clockwork, which we try to do. It's definitely our goal to get them out the door by then.
Yeah, we've not always done it, but I think given 2020, it's an amazing effort, particularly from you, from the editing thing, of getting it out in time. So, because I think this would be the year in which people would forgive, especially.
Strangely, I've had a lot more spare time on my hands lately. So.
Well, yeah, that's true, but yeah.
It's all worked out, yeah. We also already have a couple of Eye of the Giant related tweets to share. Gareth, aka Garferdy on Twitter, writes that he likes Eye of the Giant, and he says it's great to spend some time with the Third Doctor and Liz, and he enjoys that Mike is actually competent in this one.
Which is true, yeah. Yeah, he is.
And then Andrea Mettenberg writes that she doesn't have a copy of Eye of the Giant, sadly, so she's taking some time this month to read Time Worm Genesis instead. So our commiserations. And hopes that next month she can read along with us.
Yes. I've not read Time Worm Genesis, however, its reputation makes me think it would be an interesting read.
Not my favorite of the John Peels.
No.
But speaking of next month, Chris, I think we're at the point now where you let our listenership and myself know what exactly it is we're going to be reading for the month of November.
Yeah, so I think November might be an interesting and trying month for us all. So I thought I would give you a treat, Matt.
Okay.
I'll treat you to, I think, one of your favourite Doctors, if not, yeah, I think actually your favourite Doctor. So we're going to do a Second Doctor book.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, which is going to be the second time we've seen the Second Doctor this year, but, he was in with the Fourth Doctor last time, so it's okay. We are going to be doing The Final Sanction by Steve Lyons.
Ooh.
Which features Second Doctor Jamie and Zoe.
Nice. I know nothing about that one, so that's cool.
So,
Excited.
Yeah, it features the return of the Salachians, which they were kind of like recurring villains that he used, who I think we've seen in a short story, or at least reference to. But yeah.
Are those the shark-like creatures?
Yeah, I believe they are.
Okay.
Hopefully there won't be any stuff that accidentally ties in with the news. I must confess I've not gone on to the Doctor Who guide thing and searched for the words pandemic or election. But hopefully it'll prove a distraction from events.
Very cool, and I think I prefer Zoe over Victoria too, slightly, so
yeah,
that'll be fun.
Yeah, it's kind of toying between that and there was a Justin Richards book that I also was thinking of, but that is set on an asteroid. Like, well, we did an asteroid about a couple of books ago.
And it's been a while since we've read a Steve Lyons.
It was roughly this time last year, I think, wasn't it? Which feels like 20 years ago.
It does, yeah.
Yeah. So, particularly because, dear listener, we're recording this the first weekend of October. So, after the week of the first presidential debate, possibly only presidential debate, and that was a week that felt like it went on for a decade, wasn't it? So,
yeah.
Yes. So, blimey.
You don't need a time bubble or time distortion.
No.
In 2020, it provides it all on its own.
Yeah, it certainly does.
Well, until next month, this has been Matt in Minnesota.
Chris in South London. Happy reading and stay safe.
Thank you for listening to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. Special thanks to George C. Music for use of their song Doctor Who Theme Swing Jazz Version. You can follow us on Twitter at ANDWBC Podcast and like us on Facebook. Help other listeners to find us by leaving a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice. You can contact the show by emailing your thoughts to andwbcpodcast@gmail.com. And until next month, happy reading.
For a long time now, I thought I was just a survivor, but I'm not. I'm the winner. That's who I am. The Time Lord victorious.
And there's no one to stop you.
No.
This is wrong, Doctor. I don't care who you are. The Time Lord victorious is wrong.
That's for me to decide.